All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. We are going to get started with today's best practices session with Cliff Karthauser. Cliff, thanks again for being with us and pouring into our teams. I've got a couple of people coming in through the waiting room, so I'll continue to let people in. Obviously, if you have the ability to turn on your cameras, we much prefer to see smiling faces than black boxes. It's much better from a presenter perspective as well. Yeah, we're excited to continue this, and I know we are, as I mentioned a moment ago, in the heat of battle with AEP and OEP. If this AEP OEP season is anything for you like it is for me, it's the craziest that I've dealt with in a long time. And candidly, I'm completely overwhelmed and underwater, and I know many of our agents are. I just encourage you though, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I think I calculated this morning, not counting Thanksgiving and the Friday after Thanksgiving and weekends, we have about 21 days left in the open enrollment season before we hit the 12-15 mark and maybe get a little bit of a break. I have heard some rumors about them extending the annual enrollment period, possibly through the end of the year for Medicare. Don't know if that's going to happen or not, but we may get some additional help potentially on that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and shut up here and really turn things over to Cliff. Many of you know and love Cliff. He's doing some great things across the organization right now. I know, Cliff, you've been working on some different podcasts with top leaders and agents across the country. I think that's going to be some exciting stuff that we'll be able to push that content out hopefully here in the near future. But thanks for being with us. I know your talk today is really focused on 10 things to give up if you want to be successful. And I took a moment to look at it, and I think it's going to be very pertinent to where we're all at in the business this time of year. So thank you to everyone for being here. Cliff, the floor is yours, my friend. I'm sorry, buddy, you're still muted.
There. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Perfect.
Awesome. I'd like to, again, begin by just thanking Silas and Rick, because without their support and partnership, this wouldn't be possible for me to be with all of you. So thanks to them. And I'm going to give you a quick commercial before we dig in today on what's to come next month. I'm really excited about this. I've been working on it for about a month, and it's going to be a two-part series on building your personal brand with authority and influence. And a few things, I'm going to give you a quick commercial, a few things that we're going to be unpacking during that two-part series. And again, you'll have a participant's guide. But one of the things that a personal brand does is it accelerates trust. And so the single most valuable benefit to becoming an authority in your practice, in your trade, is it accelerates the speed of trust you have with your customers and your prospects. I'm going to be unpacking more on that. That's one thing we're going to be covering. Another thing is I'm going to give you a strategic process that will position yourself as an expert in your field, because we have to have a process in order to do that. Another thing that we're going to be talking about is the importance of your personal brand. Now, you have a brand that you represent, a corporate brand, you have a health markets brand, but you have to go deeper, you have to go beyond that, and you actually have to create a personal brand in your particular geographical market. So we're going to talk about that. Another thing we're going to talk about is understanding what branding is. And by definition, if you think about branding, by definition, it's creating an image in the mind of your audience, in the mind of your customer, or in the mind of your prospect. And so businesses or people that we've never heard of, they don't have a brand with us, do they? If we've never heard of that person or that business, they don't have a brand with us. There's no image that's been created in our mind. So how do we go about doing that? Creating a brand in the mind of our prospect or our customer. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the difference between adopting a media mindset versus a marketing mindset. And a marketing mindset is kind of an old way of thinking about how to market your practice or do what you do. So I'm going to share with you the difference between creating a media mindset and creating a marketing mindset. We're going to talk about lead generation and the three audiences that you want to serve when it comes to creating lead generation. And I'm going to share with you the importance of creating your own personal newspaper. So we're going to be talking about that. And then towards the end, we're going to of this two-part series, we're going to talk about retention and referrals. Why do people refer us? And then the clarity on who is referring you, and then a system to track referrals. We have to have a system to track where the referrals are coming from and what audience. I'm going to share with you 3 different audience that we want to garner referrals from. Well, we have to track where those referrals are coming from. And then I'm going to share a little bit with you on creating referral moments. And I'm going to give you some examples of win-win moments that empower referrals. And there's way too much that I want to cover to do that in 1 hour. I want to go deeper with some of the subject matter. So that's why I created a 2-part series. So I'll be sending that out to Rick and to Silas and to Lisa, and then you'll get the participants guide ahead of December 11th is our next time together.
So Cliff, we'll do, that'll be December and January, those 2 sessions of back to back, right?
Yep. It's just way too much. My facilitator guide is about 8 pages of information, and I'm going to condense that way down in your participants guide, but we couldn't do justice to this session if we just did that in one 1-hour session, if that makes sense to
I
everybody.
agree, and I think, so I have a tendency to pack too much into an hour myself, so I agree. Taking in bite-sized pieces is a good thing. I just wanted to mention too, last session, Cliff had asked us to bring questions that we might have. So I know he has content for today, but we should have a little bit of time at the end if there are things you guys want to open up questions about. So as we're kind of working through the content today, don't hesitate to jot things down that we can address towards the end of today's session as well.
Awesome. And so here's what I'd like all of you to do that are attending today. And I value and appreciate your time today, because I know that you're spending an hour here. You could be on the phone or in a virtual meeting with a prospect or a customer or a client. And so I'm going to try to bring meaningful content. I got a favor to ask. So we have a lighter crowd today, and I get it. You're in the throes of craziness. I'd like you to invite one agent that has not been a part of these series, or maybe they've been an infrequent somebody that's participated maybe infrequently. If you could do that one thing, invite one person, I'll guarantee you I'm going to bring value on December 11th and in January with this, creating a personal brand, your own personal brand, based on, authority and influence. So if you could reach out and maybe invite your peers want to hear from you. And I know Silas and Rick do that, but sometimes if you invite them, it maybe carries a little bit of a different perspective or weight with them. And so I'm going to share a couple quick things, and we're going to get into 10 things you should give up if you want to be successful. And so we spend so much of our lives devoted to our work. We would all agree, right? To our profession, to our work. We owe it to ourselves to ask the right questions about what we're doing. And I'm going to give you a couple of questions that I want you to ponder, to think about. And actually, I'm going to give you a little homework, not to do today or this week, but as you kind of wrap up open enrollment, I'm going to give you a couple of questions, because I believe that questions can shape both our life and our business journey. The questions that we ask ourselves. So the first question is this: what business are you really in? What business are you really in? And the second question is, why did you get into this business originally? And why are you in it now? Why did you get into this business originally? Why are you in it now? This question is incredibly important because it connects you with your why. And so what we do daily is interwoven with purpose. We feel complete. We feel whole. But here's what happens. Oftentimes, along the way, we lose sight of our why. We get busy, and the things are crashing down, and you're all busier now than you've ever been. You feel like the world's closing in on you. Things are crashing down on you. And so when what we do daily is interwoven with purpose, we feel a completeness or a wholeness that maybe sometimes we lose sight of. And oftentimes along the way, what do? We lose sight of that why. Why are we in this business? What kind of an impact are we making? Or maybe we never identified our purpose before entering our current role or position. And I think that's true for a lot of us. You know, you didn't start day one and say, man, this is my big purpose. This is my big why. And so, but what happens is that what that does is it leaves a lot of smart, talented people feeling empty. And I'm sure there are times when you're in the crush of everything that's going on right now, at the end of a day or a week, it's like, man, I'm empty. You know, I'm spent. So here's what I want you to do. Not today, not this week, but as you roll through open enrollment, here's what I want you to do. Take a moment to write down why you got into your current role or position originally. You know, why did you enter this profession originally? And as a follow-up to that question, write down why you're in that role now. Because things have a way of changing over time. And so it's key to look at where you started. Now, for some of you, you're newer at this, but a lot of you in the meeting today, you've been at this for a while, for maybe some of you for many years. So it's key to look back to where you started and where you are right now. You know, this journey that you're on, Any questions or thoughts on that? Just a quick homework assignment. Not today, not this week, but as you have some time. So 10 things you should give up if you want to be successful. Number one, not in any order of importance, but number one, give up the short-term mindset. And there's a great quote, Mae West said it many, many years ago. She said, you only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. I love that quote. You know, you only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. Successful people, what do? They set long-term goals. And they know that those aims are merely the result of short-term habits that they need to do every single day. Doing the same things every single day, we form the right habits, right? And once we form habits, we can start to change our behavior. Small, simple things done consistently over and over again. And so we have to kind of embrace this notion that we have to fall in love with the boredom of the routine. Because not everything you do is exciting. You know, it's not glamorous. And so the best of the best, what do? They get bored with the same stuff everybody else gets bored with. But what they do is they understand the consistency, and they have to fall in love with the boredom of the routine, the activities. We have to be able to do that. And I'll open it up for some questions here in a couple of minutes. Number two is give up on playing small. And there's a great quote, and I think I put the quote in your guide by Marianne Williamson. You know, and I'm not going to read the whole quote, but part of it is your playing small does not serve the world. Your playing small does not serve the world. So if you never try new opportunities or allow your dreams to become realities, you're never going to unleash your full potential. And there's been research done on capacity and how much of our capacity are we playing to. And on average, the research that's been done on this says that on average, we operate at about 60% of capacity. So there's so much more there for all of us. Now, some of you could argue and say, man, I feel like I'm at 80 or 90% of my capacity, maybe 95%. Well, during open enrollment, which is a fixed period, it's very finite. Maybe you're operating at 90 or 95% of capacity. But if you look at the year as a whole, if you look at 2024, I think we could all say that are we operating at 80, 90, 95% of capacity? The research tells us that we're not. That on average, we operate at about 60% of capacity. And so, you know, what's your ceiling? Where do you place your ceiling of what's possible? And your ceiling is really defined by your refusal to allow external circumstances to define it. We want to define our own ceiling of what's possible. Don't let somebody else define your ceiling for you or your ceiling of what's possible. Don't allow external circumstances, regardless of how difficult they are at times. They should never be the root cause of the ceiling that you place on your potential or on what you're accomplishing. Your ceiling is your refusal to allow that external situation or circumstance to define where you're going with your business or with your life for that matter. So you want to voice your ideas. You want to be creative. You want to be innovative. And don't be afraid to fail, because we're all going to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. We learn from our failures. And typically when we're failing, what are we doing? We're failing forward. We're moving forward. We're learning from that situation or that experience. And so it's so important to say, where am I? What's my capacity? And where have I placed my ceiling? Because there's so much more. There's so much more that we can do and we can give. I'm going to stop there for a second and throw it open for a comment or a question. And I'm gonna just ask my good friend Gary B. Everybody knows he's a legend. He's a legend in my mind. I know he's a legend in his own mind. So, Gary, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you agree that, boy, on average, are we really operating at 80, 90, 100% of capacity, or is there more?
I've been told I was outstanding on the field when I was out back, but not not anything else. But no, I every year I think I'm at capacity, and then the following year we always add a little bit more to it. So
Yeah,
it's definitely accurate that as we expand our practice, as we expand our activities, it leads to bigger activities and bigger things. So
yeah,
no, I would agree. We've always had a little bit more in the tank than what we think.
yeah. Rick, do you have a thought on that or a comment?
You're muted, buddy. The old bubble mute got him.
There we go. I got it.
He was
There we go.
profound, though, Rick.
There we go. So, as Gary said, I think the key is that the business does keep growing. And if we just keep thinking through different opportunities, we're still not even there. And some of you are looking at, I don't have any moment left. Well, next year you'll have a sub-agent to take care of that. And then the year after that, you may add two. And business will continue to grow if we keep opening our mind to how do we allow that thing to grow.
And that's a great.
And I can tell you that I just want to mention this because I don't know if I have time later, but Cliff, I think the timing around your next two at the end of the year, going into the beginning of the next year is just phenomenal on the marketing piece and branding yourself. It's key to the following year for everybody. So thank you.
Great. And I think what you said there is so true. Our mindset or being able to expand our mind to what's possible. Because a lot of us right now are thinking, I don't have an extra minute in a day. Why am I even attending this session? Because there's so many other things that I need to be doing. And so being able to expand our mind to what's possible is such a huge thing. Because our mindset is such a powerful a part of all this. Number 3, give up your excuses. It's not the cards you're dealt, but how you play your hand. And that was given by Randy Pausch. He wrote a book. He was actually on Oprah Winfrey a number of years ago. He was a professor at, I believe, Carnegie Mellon, which is a university in Pittsburgh. And he was diagnosed in his 40s with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Maybe some of you know his story. Incredible story. And he started to document and write this book. And he did, and it's called The Last Lecture. It's not the cards you're dealt, but how you play your hand. Really, really powerful. It's probably been 10 years ago, maybe, since he passed away. Time goes by so quickly, but some of you may be familiar with who that is. Successful people know that they're responsible for their life, for their success, no matter their starting point, no matter their weaknesses, no matter their past failures. And so realizing that we're all responsible, that we have to take ownership for what happens next in our business. Well, sometimes that can be frightening, right? But it can also be exciting that that we can create out of this whatever we want to create. There's no ceiling. There's no ceiling on what you're capable of doing and the impact that you can make. So what do we want to do? We want to work on removing barriers, the things that may be holding us back. Because excuses, what do? They limit and they prevent us from reaching that full potential. So when we're making excuses, we're limiting ourselves because we're looking at that glass as half empty rather than half full. So we want to eliminate those. We want to remove barriers. We want to build our plan and we want to own our outcome. Build your plan, own your outcome. So if you're building your plan, and if you have a plan, for example, you have a plan for open enrollment, again, a finite period of time, there's a beginning, there's an end. Do you have a plan? And are you executing that plan on a day-to-day basis? And the difference between highly successful people and others, because we all execute. Every single person in this meeting today is executing. The difference is highly successful people, they execute consistently, where others, they execute inconsistently. So that consistency is critically important. It's critically important. Number 4, give up the fixed mindset. And so people with a fixed mindset, here's what they think. They think that their intelligence or their talents are simply fixed traits, and that talent alone leads to success without hard work. And I think they're wrong. The difference between good and great is seldom about talent alone. And I think we would all agree that that's true. The difference between good and great is seldom about talent alone. Now, we need a certain amount of talent, but successful people know it's not just about talent alone. They know that. So what do? They invest an immense amount of time on a daily basis to acquire new knowledge. Hopefully what you're gaining by being a part of this today. We want to acquire new knowledge. We want to develop that growth mindset. We want to learn new skills. And what these things start to do is they start to change our perception so that we can benefit our business. We have to, the best investment that you will ever make is when you invest in yourself to get better at your day job, to get better at what you do. Highly successful people are lifelong learners. They continue to invest in their practice. They add a sub-agent. They continue to expand their view of what's possible. If you're a tier 2, what are the steps that are necessary to go to tier 3? If you're a tier 3, what are the steps that are necessary to go to a tier 4? And so highly successful people, they don't rest on their laurels, and they're rarely satisfied with where they are. They continue to gain new knowledge, new skills, learn new things, become more effective in what they're doing. I'm going to stop there for a second. Silas, any thoughts on that fixed mindset?
I would just say this is all pertinent in that earlier today, I actually talked to Megan, my executive assistant, and communicated that I'm looking to hire 1, maybe 2 additional people already for next year. And I want to start that process January. You talk about how do you expand to the opportunity that's in front of you? I think we're tremendously blessed to have an enormous opportunity, a growing opportunity, and one that's not going to slow down anytime in the next number of years. When you look at this Medicare space, they say there's 12,000 people a day turning 65 right now. And over the next 6 years, that's going to double to 24,000 people a day. And then it's going to plateau for a decade. So the next 15 to 20 years, there's this enormous opportunity. And I think a lot of this is really thinking through how do we change our mindset and expand to the opportunity that's in front of us. And a lot of that is figuring out how do you build infrastructure? How do you hire people? And obviously with hiring people, there's a lot of complexities that come with that as well. How do you build the appropriate infrastructure to be able to manage this well? Those are all the things that are spinning inside of my mind from the time I wake up in the morning till the time I go to bed at night. And I think, those of you who may be running a one-man shop right now, I just challenge you a little bit to expand your mindset on that a little bit. Start thinking about what it's like to add that first assistant, that first sub agent, because I promise you, if you really want to take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of us, you have to go there. It's very real. So
Yeah.
those are my thoughts right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, there was a lot in that 1 minute, what you shared there. Anybody else have a thought or a question or a comment? Throw your hand up. If not, we'll continue moving forward, but I don't want to lose sight if you have a thought or a question or a comment, or we can save them to the end. But anybody else have a thought or a comment? Okay, we'll go to number 5. Give up believing in the magic bullet. What do I mean by that? Give up believing in the magic bullet. Every day in every way, you're getting a little bit better. You're getting a little bit better. And I want you to think about your trade, your practice that way. Every single day is an opportunity to get just a little bit better. And so overnight success, in my opinion, is a myth. We see people that are highly successful. They didn't get there overnight. Overnight success is a myth. And highly successful people, it doesn't matter what they're doing. They know that making small continual improvements every day will be compounded over time. And it's going to give them desirable results. Sometimes it's human nature to look at people and say, how in the world are they doing what they're doing? Is that even humanly possible? But what we don't realize is the price they paid, the sacrifices they made, all the things that they did to position themselves to get to where they are. Now, it's important to plan for the future, no doubt about it, but focus on the day that's ahead of you as well and improve just 1% a day. So where is success found? And I've shared this with you before, but it's so important. Success is found in your daily agenda, in your daily routine. And so if I was to look at your daily agenda for Wednesday, what is today, November 13th? If I looked at your daily agenda, your daily routine for this particular day, will I find success in there? Are you focused on doing the right things right? What are the activities? Where have you placed your priorities? Because success is found in our daily agenda, our daily routine. So are you prepared for the day? Are you prepared for the week? And what's critically important in the business that you're in is at the end of the week, give yourself a grade. How did I do this week? What were my results for my 1 week's body of work? Did I make an impact? And literally to go through that exercise of scoring yourself, giving yourself a grade based not only on your activities, because we hear activities is the gasoline, the fuel that you have to put in your operation. It's critically important to have the right activities, but also to hold yourself accountable to your results as well. They go hand in hand, because if you're executing the right activities consistently, they will drive you towards the desired results that you want and that you need. And so when do we do that? We hold ourselves accountable at the end of every single week. Monthly is not enough. Every single week, you run your week based on a scorecard of activities, but then at the end of the week, you've got to have the courage to give yourself. I got a dog here that's interfering. She's chewing up my paper, Silas. My dog's in here ripping my next lesson apart. But we have to have the courage to hold ourselves accountable. That's your responsibility. That's nothing you delegate to somebody else. And these are just my thoughts and opinion, but we have to have the courage to look into that accountability mirror every day. And that's hard to do, right? But successful people do it. That accountability mirror. And so what do we want to do? We want to identify, and then we want to knock down our most important domino to begin every day, to identify. And what do I mean by that? And I've shared this with you in a lesson maybe 2, 3 months ago on cracking the code to extraordinary results. Number one is we go small, especially during an open enrollment. You have to go as small as you possibly can go and narrow your focus to the critical things that you have to execute on day in and day out. Because again, it's a fixed period of time. And it's overwhelming when you're in the moment, but then you look back at the end of it and you say, that wasn't all that bad. Sometimes we make the event, we make it more than what it really is. And so at the end of it, you'll look back and say, man, I got through another open enrollment period. I had success. I served a lot of clients. I added some new customers. But when you're in the moment, sometimes you can become overwhelmed. So it's really important to narrow your focus, go as small as you possibly can, identify the most important dominoes, and knock those down every single day. Number 7, give up your perfectionism. That's hard for some of us. I've got a daughter that's an attorney. She's a perfectionist. She's her biggest critic. Nothing's ever quite good enough. But we have to be able to give up our need for perfectionism, because nothing will ever be perfect no matter how much we try. And so fear of failure, or even fear of success, often prevents us from what? Taking the actions that are necessary to move our business forward. And so many business opportunities will be lost if we wait for everything to be just right. If we wait around for everything to be just right, the train's going to leave the station and we're not going to be on it, right? And so giving up that need for everything to just be perfect is okay. It's okay. But people, a lot of us struggle with that. And we wait around to get it just right, or for it to be perfect. And by the time we do all that, somebody's already moved from tier 2 to tier 3. I mean, we got to put ourselves in motion and action all the time. I'll go through the rest of them, then we'll have time to recap these and talk about any other questions. Number 7, give up multitasking. Now, I get a lot of pushback on this one. These are just my thoughts, and they're backed by research that's been done on this. Because a lot of people think, man, I get so much done because I can juggle 9 balls. I can spin a lot of plates. I can multitask, and man, look at what I'm getting done. Well, I love this quote by Winston Churchill. And I think I put it in your handout. I don't have your handout in front of me, so I'm not sure. But the quote's this: you will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. I love that quote. And so what does that quote really mean? Well, here's what it means to me. If you stop and it's like a puppy. You get a puppy, you throw the puppy in your backyard, and you start to throw shiny objects out there. What does that puppy do? Chases every shiny object that you throw at them. So they move from one thing to another. Any shiny object, it diverts our attention away from mastery, away from doing something exceedingly well. So the research says this, that when we switch from one task to another, and we're going back and forth because we're doing all these things and we're multitasking, it takes about 11 minutes to regain complete focus. And successful people know this. That's why they choose one thing and they narrow their focus until that one thing is done. And then what do? Then they move to the next most important one thing. And they narrow their focus down, and they don't switch and move from one thing to another. Because when we do that, it really interferes with focus. It interferes with going small. And if you have a different thought on that, I'd welcome that as well. But the research just bears out the fact that when we're switching and we're multitasking all over the place, we're doing a lot of stuff, but we're never going to get exceptionally good at what that is. And so we'll never achieve mastery. Anybody have a thought on that, or a comment? Hopefully that makes sense. And I realize there's times when you do have to multitask. I'm not saying don't ever do that. But exceptional results typically are going to be achieved when we focus on one most important thing, again, that domino, and we knock that down. And then we go to the next most important domino and we knock that down. And this gives us a sense when we have a heightened priority around what's really most important, the things that pay us really, really well, it's not multitasking 10 or 15 things at the same time, typically. So anybody, Stephen, do you have a thought on that? Is it Gert? I'm not sure if I have your last name, but what do you
It's
have?
fine. It's Kirky. Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah, I've read that in many books that we were looking over. It's you can't multitask. I mean, yeah, people think they can, but you definitely lose focus on things. So yes, going after one thing, getting that one thing done, and then going back to it. So
Yeah.
or going back to something else. So yes.
Now, the next one, I thought of Silas. Give up your need to control everything. And that's he's a good friend, and we can kid around, right? Or Rick or whoever. A lot of people, we feel that we have to control everything, and some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. Now, differentiating these two is really important. And so what do we want to do? We want to detach, we want to remove or detach ourselves from the things we cannot control and focus on the ones that we can. And know that sometimes the only thing that we can control is our outlook, our attitude, and the people we surround ourselves with. Now, can we control our attitude? Because there's a lot of things we just can't control. I'm in control of my attitude. So when I rolled out of bed today, I had to lock that in because I'm in control of that. Whether that's positive or negative, I'm in control. I'm in control of my outlook. Is my outlook towards my business the right outlook? Am I seeing am I seeing a great opportunity to serve more customers and prospects and clients today? Is my outlook? My outlook is critically important. And then the people that we surround ourselves with, our inner circle. So I want you to think about this. Some of you have sub-agents, some of you have support, people that are working in your practice. I want you to think about this. Give up your need to control everything and empower the right people. Empower the right people. And so it could be a team member, it could be a sub-agent. Now, here's what will eventually happen. Because a lot of you have other people in your practice. So if I empower Rick and he's part of my team, here's what will eventually happen. Whatever I empower and give him to do, he will eventually do it way better than me. But that empowering is so important. Now here's the deal. The best agents, they delegate differently. They delegate differently than maybe more insecure agents. I'll use the word insecure. That may not be the right word, but here's what most agents do. They delegate tasks. Go do this, get this done. I'm looking over your shoulder. And sometimes we have to delegate tasks. I'm not saying never delegate tasks, but typically when we delegate tasks, go do this, get this done. I'm kind of looking over your shoulder. The best agents delegate authority. There's a difference between delegating tasks and delegating authority. And so when you delegate authority, what are you giving your support person or your team member? What are you giving them? You're giving them the freedom to create, to take ownership. They're not just doing what they're told, they're owning the entire project. Now, there's teachable moments. Sometimes we have people, they mess up. But that's a teachable moment because we're giving them this, whatever that is, to own. Now, if you need my help, you need direction, you need my support, come and see me. But this is your baby. I'm giving you this to own. I want you to run with it. I'm giving you the freedom. When we delegate tasks, a lot of times, and I get there's times that we have to do that, but typically when you delegate tasks, you're creating followers. When you delegate authority, you're creating leaders. And there's a big difference. And so don't think you're not a leader if you have a support role, if you're in a support role. It doesn't matter the role you're in. I want you to think about yourself as a leader, regardless of what that area of responsibility is. You're not just a leader if you're an agent. You're not just a leader if you're a sales leader. You're not just a leader if you're a territorial VP. Whatever your role is, own it, take responsibility, and be a leader. It's critically important. Number 9, any thoughts on that one? Giving up, because I think I heard a great sermon on Sunday, and it was interesting. I'm listening, and the minister said, the pathway to, his whole thing was the pathway to peace, the pathway to peace, and the whole thing was the pathway to peace is giving up your need to control everything. Of course, his message was spiritual. We're not going to get into that, but he said you turn things over. Pathway to peace, you give up your need to control everything. That's a hard one for a lot of people. It really is. We'll come back to that one if anybody has a thought or a comment. Number 9, give up saying yes to things that don't support your goals. Man, this one was really hard for me. I didn't do it well. I said yes to everything. Why? Because I didn't want to disappoint people. And so I knew I shouldn't, but I did. And I continued to do that. And I'd say yes, and I'd say yes, and I'd say yes. And then I'd ask, I'd become so frustrated. Why in the world did I take this on? Why did I say yes to this? Successful people know that in order to accomplish their goals, you all have lofty goals. You all have all these big things you want to accomplish. If you do, sometimes you have to say no to certain things, activities, events, tasks, demands that don't support your goals, that don't support your mission. In the short term, you might have to sacrifice a bit of instant gratification because we all want that as well. But when your goals come to life, it will be worth it. So I was terrible at this. I said yes to everything. I became overwhelmed. I was carrying everybody else's bags. So eventually, here's what I came to grips with, because I knew I couldn't continue to do this. And towards the end of my career, I got very, very good at it. So when I knew that somebody was asking me to take on something that didn't support my goals, my mission, here's how I respectfully declined. And so if I'll just say Jeff Armstrong, if Jeff asked me to do something that I knew I shouldn't, because it really didn't support my goals, I really didn't have the time to take that on, I would say to Jeff, you know what? I wish I could, but I just can't take that on right now. And Jeff would understand. It's very simple, but it's the way that I was able to unburden myself when I knew that I should say no, but I always said yes. Man, Rick, I wish I could, but I just can't take that on right now. And people understand. They'll accept that. They don't say, well, Rick's not going to say, what do you mean you can't take that on right now? He'll understand. And it's just a very professional and respectful way to give somebody a no. Man, Saddles, I wish I could, but I just can't take that. I just can't take that on right now. Number 10, give up.
I was going to say, Cliff, real quick before you jump there, I feel blessed. You've never told me no, so maybe I'm in a good place, huh? But I do agree with you. It's really hard. My wife gets on me about that. She's like, when is it going to slow down? And I said, I'm a sucker for somebody asking for my help. I really am. And that's a very difficult thing to do. So
it is. I think it's inherently, man, if somebody is great at that, I'd love to hear more, because I think inherently we say yes because we don't want to let somebody down or disappoint them. And yet there's sometimes we have to learn that no is not a bad word. I wish I could. Man, Ronnie, I wish I could, but man, I just can't take that on right now. And people will understand. They really will. Number 10, give up toxic people. You know, I heard a long time ago that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I think there's some truth to that. We're never going to outperform our inner circle. Who we hanging with, who's in that inner circle, we're not going to outperform those people. Do we have the right people in our inner circle? You know, people that we spend the most time with, they add up to who we become. And there are people that are less accomplished always in their personal and professional life. And there are people that are more accomplished. We're all on a journey. There's people more, there's people that are less accomplished than we are. Well, if we spend all of our time with the people that are behind us, our average over time is going to go down. And if we spend time with the people that are further down the pathway than we are, that have achieved maybe more success than we've achieved, and we start hanging with those people, no matter how challenging that can be, it raises our game. It raises our game. You know, we're going to become more successful as a result of that. Now, at times that's going to be uncomfortable because we're going to have to really push ourselves. But if we spend all of our time with people that are behind us on the success curve, over time, our average is going to go down. If we spend time with people that are further down that path than us, and we hang with them, we learn from them, we ask them questions, it's going to impact the success that we're having as well. And so none of us needs, you know, I shared this on one of our lessons, but I love an exercise that I titled Drag and Improve. Drag and Improve. It's very simple. You get out an 8.5 and 11 inch piece of paper, and on the upper left-hand column, you write the word drag. And on the upper right-hand column of the paper, you write the word improve. And you start to think about the people on the left-hand column of that 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And what do? You start to list, so you spend as little time with those people as possible because they want to bring you down to their level. Now, on the right-hand column, who are the people that can improve your life, that can make you better, and here's what those people will do. They will elevate you. They will elevate your view of what's possible. Simple exercise. Do it with your kids. Drag and improve. The company you keep, who you hanging with, who you learning from. It's a simple exercise called drag and improve. And I just get, these are just things to think about and little, seeds. But, that inner circle is so critically important. So I promise you we'd have a little time. Last session, we had a few great questions. And we ended that lesson. Hey, bring a question or two. Does anybody have a question? First of all, any thoughts on what we covered today? But who has a question maybe that doesn't have anything to do with what we covered today? Anybody have a thought or a question they'd like to throw out for the group?
I have a thought that actually brought together a couple of these things. I was terrible, still am, at saying no to people. So the best thing I did early on when I got my storefront was to get an assistant. So when people, if they would ask me, can you still come to my house? I would, yes. But my assistants would say, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. We need you to come to the storefront. And they would come here, but I'm a sucker. I would say yes every single time. So two things is, yes, if you can't do it yourself, hire somebody else to do it. And like you said, give them control, but it's a lot of those same things together. So I really don't have to be the one to say no.
Yeah.
To somebody else. So that's been helpful. And that not thinking small, and as busy as it is right now, I'm just cramped for space. So decided I needed to get a bigger storefront. So the worst time to do that and to look for it would be this time of year. But I knew if I waited until February when things were normal again, I wouldn't feel the pain of not having enough room and I'd be comfortable. So I underwent getting a new storefront that's much larger, which is scary, but closed on that on Friday. So in the middle of this craziness, you kind of got to feel the pain and move forward, or feel the fear and move forward. So whether it's started getting your new storefront, or getting your first assistant, or adding your second assistant, or adding a sub agent, it really does all work out and make life so much easier. That I'm actually getting sleep at night during this craziest of all Medicare enrollments ever this year.
That's awesome.
Kind of all those things wrapped in one is my comment, I guess.
I feel blessed that you're here today, because I know you're cramped. I know it's crazy, right? But
Got to eat lunch. So I did multitask and eat lunch with my camera off. So that's my efficiency, not multitasking. I do try to find the line between what's efficient and what's multitasking, but yes, everybody can take a minute. And part of that too is saying no to things. Is a couple of years ago, I would give up my lunch to make appointments, and you just can't do that. You have to eat lunch. You have to be able to sleep. I don't go on drinking binges during this time of year. I try to be like, go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, even on the weekends, do all the things like you're an athlete and you're in season. You got to fuel your body, eat right, bring food, don't order fast food all the time. So try to do all those right things during open enrollment, but you still have to take care of yourself every day in some way. So if you give yourself an hour to eat or return phone calls, listen to Cliff, it's well worth it, I think, overall.
yeah, and that's great advice, because we gotta refuel. Do you ever find yourself questioning the guy that you're sleeping with, or not? I'm kidding you.
Hey, careful there.
We got to have a little fun at this as well.
I've learned how to say no. So see, I do have some saying no skills.
So
Dan.
I got a question for Ronnie.
Okay, yeah, fire away.
Does Rick know that he can't get that third sports car because you got a bigger office?
Your garage. I already park in the driveway as it is. So yeah, we need to add on a garage.
Great comments though. And in all seriousness, that the balance, because you can't run at this 24/7. You'll burn out. And not that you shouldn't be working overtime and extra hard during open enrollment, but exercise, diet, reflection, getting away from this a little bit, because you'll come back at it stronger. Then you got to have those intermittent little breaks in things. It's because you'll wear yourself down.
True. I've told them I'll work 12-hour days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I'm exercising Tuesday, Thursday night. Like I need to keep that in there so that I'm still nice to my clients on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday long days. So yeah, you do got to keep it in there. And yes, you got to make it up someplace else. And unfortunately, working Saturdays this year and late nights, and may go into Sundays the last week or a week and a half. But like you said, it's a specified time. December 7th is close.
Yep, it's fixed. Another question or comment. Who else has something? We got a few more minutes.
I reiterate everything Ronnie has said, right? Crazy season. We also had to make the jump, and we actually are expanding from 800 square feet to 3,200 square feet, and our walls were built literally last week. So you have to do it when you feel it, because if you don't, you're gonna miss the boat.
Yeah. And why do you think, Johnny, why do you think we hold back from time to time? Is it the fear of the unknown that holds us back?
Honestly, in my case, it's control freak syndrome.
Uh-huh.
I'm in an open atmosphere in my office. We're in 800 square feet, but now when it was me and 2, it was okay, but it's now it's me and 7. And fit 7 of us plus desks and everything in 800 square feet and clients is a little tough. And for me, it'll be putting them all in their own individual offices. I can't overhear, I can't see, I can't monitor, right? So for me, it was very much needing to change my management style, and had to work through that all year with my coach to be able to be ready to be able to change my management style as well as my business style, and do it in a way that it did not crash the system.
Sure, sure. Any other thoughts or comments on any of the other things that I shared?
Cliff, I'll just mention something here. So I'm 3 years into the business. I've got 4 different leases that I'm sharing with agents, but that I'm the leaseholder on. I've got 5 assistants or sub agents that work for me. And I've talked to a lot of agents over the years who have said, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to open that office. I can't afford to hire that person. And I'll tell you, as somebody on the other side of that, every time I've hired someone, every time I've expanded, I felt like I can't afford to do this and I don't know where the money's going to come from. Every stinking time I've done it, my income has gone up more than what the cost of whatever that investment was. And so you do this enough, and I still get a little bit nervous about, hiring a 6th person and a 7th person, and can we afford it? Is it going to make sense logically? But every time that I've done it, the income has grown more than what the expense was. And so I just want to encourage all of you, you've got to take that leap of faith, because it's never going to feel right. Sometimes it is truly a leap of faith to make those types of decisions in business, but that's how you grow.
Yeah, great thoughts. Dan, Blackator, Dan's a buddy. Any closing thoughts? I'm going to give you the last question or thought or comment. You've been at this a long time.
Yeah, and I apologize, I jumped on late, so you talked about this, please forgive me. But I think in terms of focus, I think of when you're an athlete, when you're on the field, that requires 100% focus. When you're in the ice tub, you can multitask. So I think the same thing for our business. When you're in front of clients, you focus on that client. But when you're in your off time, you might be doing 2 or 3 things at the same time. And I think that might be okay, that you can multitask during part of your life. But when you're in prime time, you've got to focus. You've got to spend 100% of your effort and attention on what you need to be doing.
Yep. Great thoughts. And I 100% agree. We're bumping up against time. I'll take one more if anybody has one. If not, we'll wrap it up today. Anybody else have a thought or a question or a comment?
When it comes to giving up toxic people, what's the best way to take out the toxic people that are close to you?
Well, the first thing you have to do is identify them, right? So we have to go through that exercise. And sometimes that's really hard to do. But you start to just slowly remove yourself from those situations, or and if it's somebody that you're really close to, share with them. This is having a negative impact on my mental and physical well-being. I don't even know if you're recognizing this, but here's what this is doing to me. And if it's somebody that you're really close, because it's easy to remove or distance ourselves from people that we don't have much of a relationship with, but sometimes the toxic people are people that we're closer to, and we look at why are they this way, or why are they doing, and just be open and honest with them. And sometimes we don't even realize what we're doing or who we are, but give them an opportunity as well to say, I just, and because this is creating problems for me, and give them that opportunity and share with them what's on your heart. And then if they're still that way, you've got to choose that they're not the right people to surround yourself with. Because that's a hard one, and we all can identify people in our lives that are maybe somewhat toxic or not real positive or uplifting. And if we hang with too many of those people, what happens? They drag us down. So we have to remove ourselves. Silas, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that. I mean, but
I will say the 2 things that I circled, honestly, and everything that you presented today, well, 3 things. One was give up your perfectionism. I think that's been my motto. I tried to make that my motto this year was, don't let great be the what's the quote? Great and good, right? Don't let great be the enemy of good. So that was one. But the whole idea of who you surround yourself with, I've been having this conversation with one of my children, and trying to instill this in her a little bit. Not that she's in a bad place with it, but you kind of see some data points on that. And then that last one, giving up on toxic people. There are truly people out there who are toxic. And when you label them as toxic and you identify through multiple situations that they are a toxic influence, you just have to pull away. And I think disengaging, maybe slowly, maybe it has to be cutting things off. Because oftentimes toxic people aren't going to recognize that they're toxic, even if you have a conversation with them, right?
Yeah.
And they'll have every reason why they're not toxic, and they'll try to talk you out of, labeling them as toxic. And those are very difficult things to navigate for sure.
Yeah. Good luck with that one. Again, thanks to everybody. I know it's a really busy time. I appreciate the time. Looking forward to being with you on December 11th. I'll get a participants guide out a week ahead, and keep selling, keep serving, keep doing the great work that you're all doing.
Thank you, Cliff. We appreciate you being here and pouring into us again today. I know I'm speaking on behalf of Rick and both of our teams. We do appreciate you and value your input. So, hey, everybody, have a great rest of the AEP season. Next time we chat, AEP will be over. We'll still be an OEP, but AEP will actually be over by December 11th. So just crush it, do the best you can with what you got. So take care. Have a great day, everybody.
Take care, guys.